What's up, Team Henny Gibbon Sunday, losers and losettes? It's your commissioner here. So sorry that it's been like a few weeks since I've made a video. When you're traveling and doing a bunch of crazy shit for work, like, stuff happens. So this video is going to be a tad bit long because we're exactly 4 days, 22 hours, 3 minutes, and 40 seconds away from September 1st at 8 p.m. when we are actually drafting. So I want to make sure I hit the nail on the head with everything to make sure that everybody understands what's going on and how to play and all your questions. Thank you so much, by the way, for finally asking something or like interacting. Appreciate that one. All your questions are answered and we're really 100% ready. So let's get started. Week 3 of preseason is what we're going into. Today is Thursday. It's Thursday, not Wednesday, my bad. So there was no game tonight, but there will be a game on Saturday. And the first game on Saturday is Detroit versus Jacksonville. They play CBS at 8 p.m. And then you've got Seattle at San Diego at 8 p.m. on Saturday. Texans at the Saints, 4 p.m. on Sunday. And then at 8 o'clock is your Cardinals versus the Raiders. Now, after all the games this weekend, which you really should be paying attention to, listen to the commentators, read all the reports, because that's your last little bit of information that you're going to get on, you know, the players and what's going to be happening before we draft that following Monday. Well, this coming Monday, I should say. So definitely watch out for that, you know, and check all your players. Really, guys, pay attention who's not playing and who is playing. Like, obviously, you're not going to draft freaking Jordy Nelson, who's out for the entire season. Like, if you do, I will just hand you the Sacco Award and call it a season. Like, you won't even be allowed to play if you draft Jordy Nelson, and that's just what it is, because he's clearly out for the entire season with a knee injury. He has to have 2 surgeries, and if you didn't know that by now, now you know, but just saying. Anyway, make sure you're paying attention to who's playing and who's not playing. Look at the players that, like, Bell is out for 2 games on a suspension. Obviously, Tom Brady's out for 4 games on a suspension. So is Bryant. He's out for 2 games on a suspension. And Geno Smith is out on an injury for the first 4 games. So, you know, he might be a great second-round quarterback, but not anything to do in the first. And if you're drafting a quarterback in the first round, like, I'm starting to question if you know anything about football, but we'll talk about that next week's video. Anyway, week 4 of preseason, we will already have drafted our team, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. So what I encourage you guys to do is really think about setting a lineup for week 4. Pick your players who you're really confident about playing in week 1 of, like, actual playtime, because what I want you to do is to look at the score sheet, which you can go to games.espn.go.com. There's the black banner at the top. It's League, My Team, Player, Standing, and Scoreboard. Under Scoreboard, this lovely sheet that I've printed out will give to you guys on draft day, because I'm sure you'll need it. We'll tell you exactly how to earn points, and you can track your team, track your players, see how well they're doing in preseason, if they're even playing or if they're going to play, or what they're saying about them, just to make sure that your lineup is, like, solid for week 1 so we can actually have a pretty competitive season. That's your last time to, like, practice before stuff gets really... So how the teams are divided up. You've got East Coast and West Coast. North and South is kind of lame, so definitely doing East Coast versus West Coast is a good rivalry. On the East Coast side, you've got me, Team Tweet Babe, you've got Roswix 1, Roswix 2, Team Wix, and Glass Chase of Emotion. We will play each other twice this entire season, and then we'll play everybody else 1 time somewhere randomly. On the West Coast, obviously you've got everybody else, but in case you can't do the numbers or whatever, you've got Team Shorb, Gray Skull, Firebirds, Put the Team on His Back, and Team Shoots. You will play each other twice, and then everybody else once sometime in the season. Now, obviously you guys know we're going head-to-head points, so it just adds up your total number of points based off the things you can get points on, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. To get into the playoffs, it adds the total points per game. So if I get 1,000 points in the first 12 games, like 1,000 points each game, impossible, but if I do, that's 12,000 points. That means I have the #1 seed in the playoffs. Now, the way it works is just like any draft or any playoff would work. You've got 2 teams from the East, 2 teams from the West. They'll battle each other, and whoever wins will then play in the final round, and that will be your fantasy football champion. Now what happens is team 1 through 4, based off your points, will get into the playoffs, and we will go for the Shiva, which is the winner's trophy. Then teams 4 through 9 will go for what we call the consolidation bracket. That just means you're like the least suckiest of the suckiest people, so you guys will also play kind of the way we do in the playoffs, but you will be going for the Sacco. The Sacco is going to be for the person who actually loses in the league. Everybody from like 10 to 12, you guys just like really like suck, so sorry, you won't be playing for anything after week 16 if you're that bad at this game, but hopefully like some good people will get it there. Anyway, so the Sacco is the loser's trophy, and that's just for the person who was so close but still sucked so much. So I'm thinking about making those actual trophies. Chase, I know we talked about that. Guys, what do you think? Let me know. That would be kind of hilarious. Anyway, so that's kind of how that works. I wanted to give you guys an example of how and why we did the divisions this way. It's kind of because I wanted to match real NFL football and the way they do their divisions and their drafts. And the example I did, the Steelers are obviously in the North, so we're AFC North. So we play the Browns, the Bengals, the Ravens at least twice every single season. That means there's 16 games in total because there's 16 weeks, which means 6 of those games are guaranteed to go to our division. 10 games are like random games. Sometimes it's an entire division, sometimes it's an entire, you know, the entire East Coast, AFC and NFC. We play all of them or whatever it may be. It's just random. It does change every couple years. I haven't figured out the pattern yet, but that's not the point. So we're kind of matching that. Yeah. Anyway, continuing. We are observing the droppable list, the undroppable list this year. If you don't know what that means, I printed out the undroppable list of those people, wrote down the notes and all that wonderful stuff for you guys. So I'll let you know. What that means is that those players, if you were to draft them on, for example, if I were to draft Drew Brees, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, or Rob Gronkowski, if I drop those 4 players, I cannot drop them at all. I can't I can trade them, but I can't drop them. And the only trade I could do is with another player on the undroppable list. So I could trade, for example, Drew Brees with Andrew Luck, but I couldn't trade him with Ben Roethlisberger because he's not on the list. So that's the only way that you can make those trades possible, and that still has to be approved through me, so get on my good graces so I make sure those happen. There's 5 quarterbacks on the undroppable list, there's 10 running backs, 6 wide receivers, and 1 kicker right now. So whoever gets Rob Gronkowski, you're pretty lucky. And these are the top ranked players within each section of football, and obviously makes sense, right? Great. So since none of you, besides like 4 of you, said yes to that, I've made an executive decision and we're following it. How does lineup changes work? Okay, so you can change your lineup. So week 1, let's say you've done the practice on preseason week 4 and you're like, oh, that's great, I love my team, great. Then one of your players gets hurt, so you start tinkering, you're like, I don't know which running back to put in. I don't know which running back to put in. Some miraculous reason you put in Adrian Peterson. Why? Okay, whatever. We'll talk about that later, but you put in Adrian Peterson. And he ends up not playing because of whatever reason. Or you put in Le'Veon Bell, who's suspended for the first 2 games, so you don't want to do that. And you're going in. You can trade and change your lineup as much as possible. And I don't mean trade like person to person, I mean trade on your team, your bench to your starters. Person to person until the game of the player that you're trying to switch starts. So, for example, at 1 p.m. on Sunday, the Steelers play the Patriots. So obviously, Le'Veon Bell, granted he's suspended the first 2 games, if I have him in my starting running back position, I can't change him out after 1 p.m. on Sunday because his game's already started. If you have, for example, if you put Ben Roethlisberger in quarterback and Roethlisberger sucks, and then Andrew Luck comes up next and he's going to play, because Roethlisberger has already played, I can't trade him out for Andrew Luck thinking he's going to get more points. Once they've got points on the board, and then he's locked in there for good. You can't trade them out whatsoever. And you can do that up until all of their games start. Now, the waiver wire is going to go for 1 day. Usually on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, the players will be cleared. I'll approve them. ESPN will approve them. players will be up, and that's the way that works. Now, the waiver wire is going to go the exact same way week to week as the draft. So the way round 1 is, whoever's number 1 will be on the waiver wire as number 1 in week 1. And then in week 2, in round 2 versus the draft. So for example, I'm 3rd in the draft, I'm 3rd. So on the waiver, I'm 3rd. But then in week 2, I'm 7th, round 2, I'm 7th. So I'll be 7th on the wire. That's the way it's going to continue to do that, Snake, just to make it as fair as possible. Because some of you don't really know how to play yet, or you're still learning, so I wanted to make sure I was fair. Kind of. Okay guys, last few things here. Last thing is we are observing the keepers list this year, which just means that by September 24th, 2015 at 8 p.m., September 24th, 2015 at 8 p.m., which is 2 weeks after the start of the season, you have to either tell me or not tell me somebody that you want to keep for the 2016 fantasy football draft. It's completely optional. That is the deadline, unfortunately, just because that's the furthest date out that ESPN lets you choose that. So that's what I chose. You already know for the schedule, if you have any questions about who you're playing, when you're playing them, go to games.espn.go.com. After you log in, black header at the top. You know we're playing an 18 roster team, so 9 on your bench, 9 starters, quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a flex, defensive, special teams, a kicker, and then 9 on your bench, and a tight end. Okay, that makes 18 total. Playoffs, guys, is going to be, 1 through 4 in the playoffs, 5 through 9 in the consolidation, going for the Sago, and then the last 3, guys, you just really, really suck. That's it. That's everything I have for you guys for this week. Yeah, I'm super impressed. If you have any more questions, make sure you put it on the message boards or message me back and we'll talk about it. Don't forget, watch the end of this video, and your keyword is going to be apples and bananas.